to our Double Dose podcast. We are now on episode 10, and let me just tell you, when we started this podcast, we had one dream guest in mind, and today our dream guest is joining us. I know, I cannot believe it. Guys, we want you to guess, but I'm sure you're going to see it on the social media, so we have to tell you, this is a powerhouse of a woman. She is gold for any Indian lady, and she's definitely the person when people say who would you like most to have on your dinner table. Yes, I would say it is Devi Sankaree Govender. Welcome, Devi. Welcome, Devi.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
We are so excited. Do you know, when growing up, you were such an icon because you were the only icon, right? As Indian woman watching media, we didn't have a lot of people to look up to and that we could relate to. But fun story, we went to Effingham Secondary, yeah, and you did a little stint teaching there.
Yeah.
That's where we first met, right? You wouldn't have even remembered us from school.
I didn't even know that.
Yes. So you were the most fabulous little dynamite package, always in heels, always super cute. And you always had a way of shouting at the kids, but also with terms of endearment, let me say that.
True.
Darling, isn't that a stupid thing to do? I was like, you won't believe it's something that I picked up because there was always a darling with a, you're behaving like an idiot now. I love it.
That is so true, so true. And remember the age difference between me, because I was a student teacher at the time. The age difference between me and you guys wouldn't have been that much if you think about teachers, of course.
So that's why you must know how cool you are to us, but you're just a few years older. Devi, your career has been phenomenal. I mean, starting at 21, while you were still studying, you went straight into freelancing journalism, a career not well known in the Indian community and for women as well. And then you just never stopped. I mean, how did you think about going into journalism in the first place?
It's a story that I've recounted a few times before, but every time, even when I tell the story, I'm quite amazed by how the universe can often align for you. So I was 15 years old, growing up in Amzanto, and I watched the very first episode of Carte Blanche. And I had never seen anything called investigative television journalism in my life before. This was during the 80s when South Africa was burning, literally. And for the first time, I saw Ruda and Derek and Manu Pariachi, if you remember, on the show called Carte Blanche. And they were like in townships in an area that I grew up in. It looked the same. It wasn't fancy places. It was just your normal hood. And as the credits rolled up the screen when that first episode aired, it was actually in August of 1988. I turned around to my parents and I said, one day I'm going to work for these people. So I remember the date. It was in August of 1988. And we forget that South Africa was burning at the time, in the 80s, 1980s. And as the credits rolled up the screen, I turned to my parents and I said, one day I'm going to work for these people. It was a connection that I felt with this genre. I cannot explain it. And I was 15 years old.
I have goosebumps because we are big on manifestation. So you literally manifested your career.
And everything I did after that was aimed in that direction. I knew I couldn't just finish matric and then go to Carte Blanche. I knew that. So, but every move I made after that was designed for that.
Yes. But you've always had a really strong voice and you were never scared to air your opinions. And I think that your personality is geared so well towards this career. Devi, I think the most amazing thing about you is that you've got a really strong voice. And your voice you're not scared to use. It obviously is the perfect way for you to choose this career. Have you always been that strong of a personality?
Yes, I think my parents really battled with me because they used the words. I was described as being very talkative, inquisitive, likes to know everything. So I wouldn't be that child that was playing outside, with other cousins. I would be in that front room, that one with the 3-2-1 lounge set in the formal room. I'll be sitting there with all the men And while the women were making lunch in the kitchen, and I'd be asking very inappropriate questions like, where do you work? How much do you earn? Did you buy your car brand new? That's what it was. And like I said, my parents that really did battle with me. But I feel they also, I come from a family, by the way, of just two girls. And that was a positive for me because in most Indian families at the time, if I had an older brother or even a younger brother, the younger brother would be doing things before I did. For example, he would have probably got his driver's license before I did. So in my case, I was my father's son.
That worked for you. Yes. Absolutely. So when you started then on Lotus, you had a talk show on Lotus. Everybody listened to you. I remember my mom putting the radio on in the kitchen to listen to Devi Sankaree show because nobody missed your show. It was a strong, powerful Indian woman which didn't exist, literally did not exist before that. So people literally were not used to that.
Remember, I didn't just land the talk show immediately. I started at Lotus when I was 20, and then you do music shows and those graveyard shifts they put you on because they want to see if you're any good at anything. I ended up by absolute chance. I was teaching by that time at Nilgiri Secondary, and I was reading the news at Lotus, and the talk show host didn't pitch up. So I stepped in, and the station manager at the time was Khalik Sherif, and he said, "You're going to have to do the show." And I did it on my first show, no topic, no preparation, no nothing. But I always wanted to talk about where do South Africans of Indian descent fit in the new South Africa. This was in 1996. And that, let's just say it was lit. It was lit.
Yeah, it was lit. That is exactly the word for it, right? It was lit. You occupied space, you were loud and proud, and people took notice. Totally.
They didn't agree with what I was saying. It was at that time a much older audience, but it was also an audience that was predominantly male, and they didn't like sharp Indian women. They didn't like that because they would say, "Oh, she's got a mouth on her." That's how they'll describe it.
That's exactly it. And then that's why I'm coming to that. You got hate, but you got a lot of love. Yeah. Because every woman wanted to be you. Yes. Every woman said, "Oh my God, I've got a voice and I can use it." And oh my God, I can ask these questions that I'm thinking,
Yes.
but I would never voice out loud. And I think what you did is get the mind thinking and open. So people may have not agreed with what you said at that minute, but after they took some time, it simmered, they actually thought, "Oh, I can understand her point of view." It opened minds, new open minds, which is amazing.
Yeah, because I've always had this belief that if you have a platform, whatever that platform may be, you don't have to have a radio show or a television show. You are already a platform. Because you're surrounded by people that would look up to you, is to use that platform for good. Make life a better place, but more importantly, get people to think.
Yes, and that's exactly what you did at a time where, again, we are the same generation, right? Where the Indian female will bring the tea to the guests, not sit and talk to the guests. The daughter of the house is bringing the tea on a tray.
Yeah. Your job at that time was a very domesticated space, and that's where you sat. You couldn't really get out of that.
Yes. So when you moved from Lotus, your next job was as investigative journalist for the newspapers. How did you move and how did you make that change? So that was a column that you wrote. Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't. So how the column even came about is in 1998 now, so this few years later after starting and being on Viewpoint, I got a message that Nelson Mandela wanted to see me. From Khalik Sherif was still the boss at the time. Khalik Sherif is still my boss, by the way. I imagine in a roundabout. I'm back. Yes, he's the big boss at E-Media. See how life works, eh? Anyway, so I went to that Mandela meeting, and while Mandela was talking, I interrupted him because no one told me that you don't interrupt a state president when he's talking. And because he was saying something that was resonating with me. So I interrupted him and I said, Madiba, I know exactly what you're talking about. It is exactly about the Indian identity and where we fit in the new South Africa at the time. And then I said, look, I've got the answer. I'm going to ask you to join me on my talk show called Viewpoint. And then I paused and I said, but on one condition, and that is you don't get the questions beforehand. There I was causing trouble there already. And then Madiba came onto the show about 3 or 4 months later. And then a week later, I got a call from the Sunday Times to say, look, we'd like you to write a column for us, a weekly column in the Extra. And I said yes. And then that column ran for 16 years. So it's another example of how, if you don't speak up and speak what's in your heart, then things also don't happen.
Absolutely. You got to seize opportunities, which you always done. And when you had that interview with Mandela, did you know the impact that you have had on everybody speaking to the president?
I think, and that interview, it was the first time Madiba had ever granted an interview that was in excess of 10 minutes.
But I'm saying, even in the newspaper, to have a column for that long, you literally went and touched every topic that people were thinking about. How do you come up with what this is what I'm going to chat about? This is what I think is important. How do you select topics to discuss and write about?
You see, I was so lucky because of the talk show. I was so plugged into the Indian community. And you talk about everything. Remember at that time, it was the first time Indian people were talking about sex work, all those awkward spaces that nobody wanted to go. So the topics were easy for the column, and I wrote it in a narrative storytelling style, which was quite different, reminiscent of the old Drum magazine, if anyone would remember that. And yeah, so I really was plugged in. But the bigger opportunity for me, it was first the column, and then about a year later, I joined the Sunday Times as their features editor in Durban. And that was important for me because now I realized, okay, I'm going to do the talk show during my lunch break. So I became freelance at the SABC, and then I worked full time for the Sunday Times. And in the end, carte blanche. That's what I'm thinking. That's where I was moving to. No.
How did you get the call that you were going to get to be on Carte Blanche? How did that come about?
And you don't wait for other people to ask you, you make the opportunity yourself. So by that time, I was also working on Eastern Mosaic. I started off as a continuity presenter, and then I started working with Kamsala Naidu, and then both of us were doing like mini carte blanches for Eastern Mosaic. And I sent off a show reel to Carte Blanche. It was 5 days before my daughter was born. And then I sat and waited for 6 months. And then 6 months later, I got a call to say, oh, would love for you to come up to Joburg and do an audition. She would have been 6 months old at the time.
That is amazing. So yeah, what I'm hearing is that you just never stopped. Like, you started off at 20, you started working while studying. Each of your careers overlapped. You had a talk show that nobody missed. You had a column that nobody didn't read. Yes. You felt pregnant. You didn't even speak about getting married somewhere along the line and falling pregnant.
Somewhere along the... Yeah.
I love it. Do you know Losh and I are those girls that do a lot, right? Because we always feel when we get opportunities, it's our responsibility. God gives you opportunities, it's our responsibility to make the most of it. And I wish if there was one lesson I could teach other women, and we've learned it from women like you, that is amazing that you just don't stop. Pregnancy is not going to make you stop. Having a newborn is
not only did I got married, I felt pregnant within 3 months. I'm really grateful for that. But we were doing MBAs at the same time, because here's the thing. It's not about where you're at, it's about where you want to go. So now I thought to myself, I could see myself confronting people on carte blanche, didn't even get the job by that stage, but asked myself, what's my gap in my knowledge? The gap in my knowledge that I need to fill is I had a very strong arts background, and I needed to be able to understand business and commerce, where I could read a company's financial statements and see for myself where the money went. That was in my mind.
That is amazing. Devi, I wouldn't have even thought that would be your reason, right? But that is incredible.
Because you see, you can't, why go through life knowing you got the gaps? Then the gaps will always make you feel, what's the word I'm looking for? You're not confident. So I thought, no, I'll fill that gap. I'll do an MBA. It'll make me smarter. And that's exactly what we did. Now, again, people it's very overwhelming if you think about, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Like, feeling overwhelmed is a normal feeling. Even like this morning, I thought, oh, I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. But I realized, and I learned this from my grandmother, by the way, who said, I can only do one thing at a time. So yes, there's a lot of things going on, but you write the list and do the one thing at a time. So prioritize, do this first, then this, then this, then this. And then, you know how they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Totally. Absolutely. Honestly, I'm resonating so much with you because this is literally the community of women we want to build. Like, I think, especially with the stresses that young women go through today, they so easy to feel overwhelmed and feel like there's so much going on, and then anxiety is a real problem, and depression is a real problem, and we just want girls to go, go, go. Devi, the thing that I want to speak about is when you went onto Cartland. So here you were in Durban, and Durban is a very strong Indian community, right? So you can be yourself as an Indian brown woman, perhaps. When you get onto Cartland, this is a national stage, and we are a minority. You never shifted, you never changed, you stayed true to yourself, your accent stayed the same. My kids tell me that I coach up and have a telephone voice because when I say hello, my voice goes a little bit anglicized. And you never lost sight of who you are as an Indian woman. Tell me how you managed to do that, to not feel pressurized to change yourself to fit into a Western society, which, particularly at that time, we all felt very pressurized to do. Yeah.
Well, because I knew that even if I tried to speak all posh, when I get angry, then the accent is going to slip, and then you'll hear I'm from Umzinto, Durban, KZN. And I think that, remember, the confidence that I got was from our own community of listeners at Lotus. Because as much as there was a lot of ugly stuff that happened, not everyone was happy with me. The truth was, it was still a platform that allowed me to grow. And when you grow up never fearing your own, you don't fear anybody,
Yes, yes.
which is a superpower.
It's an absolute superpower. What I love the most about you is that you are so proudly Indian, first and foremost, and everything else you achieved irrespective of whether you're Indian or not, because it's not a factor. It's your success is from who you are as a person. Yeah.
I told myself that because it's easy now to be in 2025 when there are no barriers and we're all equal from a race point of view. But in that time when I was trying to make all of this happen, you were the other.
You were the other, for sure. Totally.
I'd never seen anyone that looked like me doing this.
Yes, you were the only one.
I
You're
mean,
the only one that we all watched because you were the only one. Yes. It's like having a Indian Barbie for the first time. That's what it was. It's suddenly you felt seen, you felt represented. You were our Indian Barbie.
but I have to tell you this, my first year at Carte Blanche was an absolute disaster. I don't know, I know it was a total disaster. So I lived in Durban, and then Carte Blanche is in Joburg. Well, they're all over the country. And in that first year, I only did three for the entire year. And I was still working at the Sunday Times and freelancing at Lotus. And I thought to myself, this is absolutely crazy. I can't be doing 3 stories. So I went back and looked at the video recordings of those 3 episodes. And as much as you are saying, I'm so brave, I'm so this and role model and all of that, let me tell you how I also fell into the trap in the first year. I know it's because I didn't have anybody that looked like me doing this job. So what I did was I cut my hair to look like Ruda Landman, and I dressed like her. And you know what that does on television? It suits Ruda, doesn't suit me. But what it does on television is that now you're not real. And I could see it. I could see it at the end of that first year. And I thought, no, 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 no. You're going to go into 2002. You're not going to do it like this. 2003, you're going to do it your way and look like you and grow your hair because that's what you have and dress like you. And the minute I did that, that's when everything changed. And I also started to choose stories or work on stories or even suggest stories that were close to my heart. I like catching the crooks. I really do.
Devi, was there ever a story that scared you and thought I should back down? Because it's dangerous, right? Because You are doing investigative journalism, but it is also private detective, police work, criminal catching. It is crazy stuff you're doing as a tiny Indian woman.
No, it's crazy. It's, but I think I am fearless, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's like with people who have higher pain thresholds, you don't know you really hurt because you cannot feel the pain. So in the same way with me, I do not fear, but the not fearing comes from a point of knowing I'm not going to get hurt because of this. I don't know how, but I know that. There were many stories where I thought, are you a crazy person? And then I'd say, no, you're not a crazy person. Just carry on. The first time I was assaulted on a car plant story, I did think, oh, okay, now maybe this is a bit mad. Then in the next moment, I said to myself, well, this is going to happen again. So you either stay or go into corporate. I stayed.
Yes, totally. I cannot see you in corporate, girl. We will miss you too much. Yeah, that's amazing. And from all the people that you have interviewed, who do you think is your most memorable on Carte Blanche?
This answer is going to surprise you. It was Lionel Richie because
Wow!
because I got to sing with him.
Oh, yes. That is so cool. Do you think you're a singer?
No, I'm not a singer. I don't think I can sing. I did do the Masked Singer, but you see, I don't let my own issues hold me back, as you can
Yeah,
see.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's the way to go.
You can drive, having the time of your life. See that girl, watch that scene, digging the dancing queen.
Let me tell you, this song.
Devi, in your time when you started to now, social media has been invented. And we did not have social media. So when you had the people that disliked you on Viewpoint, all they could do is hope to get a call in and maybe tell you something over the phone. Nowadays, social media is a different ballgame. How do you feel your change from media now that social media has evolved to what it has? And you're quite active on social media, right?
Yeah. I am active on social media. So remember in those days, yes, you hope to get a call in, or you could write a letter to the editor at the Post to complain about me. So every Wednesday morning, I would wait to see who said what, and there'll always be something. So you see, social media I think has more positives than negatives, because you basically have your own television channel in your hands. Whereas,
Totally.
yeah, in the olden days, I had to wait for somebody to give me a chance on Carte Blanche or on a radio station. Now you don't wait for that. You just do it yourself. But here's the thing now. You look, I'm in this game for over 30 years. So you develop very thick skin. And I'm not scared to tell people off on social media. I don't care what they have to say afterwards. You just ban and delete. And I do that, a lot of that.
Yeah, we do block and delete. Yeah.
Ban and delete. Like, don't, some people you can see have all kinds of other motives, but I do take the criticism. When people criticize, I like to listen to what they have to say, because when you're watching yourself for so many years, it's very easy to overlook, I think, shortcomings in your own performance. But you, you've got to be brave, and you've got to also still keep your authentic voice on social media. Again, trying to be somebody else, just like if you try to do that on television, it'll get you nowhere. If you look inauthentic, you look like
we
you're
we
lying.
being new to social media and content creation, and initially the content, the haters, which was very few, really hurt. But we are so grateful that we got such positive from most of our audience. But you're absolutely right that the platform is yours, and
Yeah.
for you pages are tailored for you. So if your content is not resonating with somebody, scroll and move on. But if it is, at least somebody's going to benefit from your content. And I love that aspect of it.
And like, for example, Twitter. I mean, Twitter can be a very, now known as X. I always, if people are being like super mean, then I ask them, why are you here? Because you following me. I'm not following you.
Yeah, that's exactly
Then
it.
ask,
And
right?
a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinion of sheep.
No, no, really. I think when you're young and in this industry and you're starting out, or not even in this industry generally, in the workplace, you take it to heart, but then it's all part of the evolution process and getting older and more confident in your voice.
So, Devi, you stayed at Carte Blanche for many years, right? Almost 2 decades. And
Yep.
then you decided to go to the Devi show. But let me tell you, when we heard that you were leaving Carte Blanche, we were devastated. We love Carte Blanche, but I do think a lot of the Carte Blanche viewers left with you. That's
Totally.
what a following you had. Carte Blanche was put on our house every evening at 8 o'clock on a Sunday. If it wasn't, it was recorded so we could watch it. And to be honest, I haven't watched Carte Blanche in years. Absolutely. But I think that is honestly the truth for a lot of people. Because when you left, Carte Blanche kind of died off.
For me, it was a case of, okay, I'm here 18 years. And remember, I was 29 years old when I started at Carte Blanche. So can you imagine or reaching your dream before you're 30? And you know what's the downside of that? The downside of that is that when you reach your dream now before 30, you're not even thinking of the next dream because that's the dream. And somewhere along the process, I said to myself, okay, you're here 18 years, now what? There has to be a something else. I learned a lot here, but it's time for me to go and do something. So, Khalik was, is the big boss at eMedia, and he called me out of the blue and said, look, why don't you just come on over? And I did.
And that you did with, again, a huge success, including a SAFTA. I mean, wherever you go, whatever you touch just turns to gold. How have you managed to remain relevant for almost 3 decades? I mean, you won a SAFTA in 2024. Like, this is literally 3 decades of success. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So how do you remain relevant and still be the top of your game? We need to know this.
There's no shortcut to this. It's hard work. Every night for me is like studying for a matric exam the next day. I have to confront somebody, be an expert in that field, as if I have 30 years experience in that field, and take the guy down if he's a scam artist. There is no shortcut. I think a lot of people look at people in the media and think, oh, wow, so glamorous, so this, so that. There's nothing glamorous about it. I can tell you right now. It looks
and
glamorous.
There's no luck as well, right? I saw your post the other day, and you were waiting to catch a crook on social media, and I laughed because media is just that, hey, hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. Be there on time and wait.
Except I'm hurrying up and waiting in the bush somewhere. Waiting for
Absolutely.
someone to
You
arrive.
don't know how long. No call time. Yeah.
No, nothing. So, yeah. So in terms of staying relevant I must say I'm quite impressed with myself for being able to do that. And I didn't have a strategy around that. The only thing I can say is that I continuously check in with my audience and keep up with what the latest trends are and what's happening and what are people interested in doing, and then constantly tap into that, because that is the relevance. The relevance is me staying relevant by staying on top of what people want.
Yes. And I think that is so important, especially when it comes to mothering, right? So we could just take a detour. How did you manage your career and mothering? Because that is a lot to balance, right? And your children are so successful. You have a daughter that is an international level golf player, when, again, Indian girls never play golf. How did you do it all?
With great difficulty, because it doesn't matter, that we live in a modern world. The fact is, if you're the mother, then you take on the bulk of the responsibility when it comes to parenting. It's an inbuilt thing that we have. And the one lesson that I learned, and I think I learned it very late, is I never prioritized myself, which is wrong. Because even in an airplane, when they tell you to put on your oxygen mask first before helping others, there's a reason why they tell you to do that. I had a demanding job. I was always on a 6 o'clock flight when I was at Carte Blanche going somewhere. I called myself the first flight, last flight queen, because on a one day I'd be in and out. And I think when you're young and you have the energy, it's fine, it's okay, but you will burn out. And it'll hurt you first. So the balance part, I don't think I got right. Everybody was a success. My family was a success. The children did well. I was helping them with homework, blah, blah, pushing them into speech contests and all the other things that we do as moms, and trying to stay on top of my game as far as my career was concerned. I don't have any regrets doing that. If I had to do it again, though, I think I would do it very differently.
Okay, what would you change?
I'd prioritize myself. I would go to yoga. I'm only doing all those things now because the kids are all adults. They're all in their 20s. But I keep saying, why didn't I do this? It's because their needs were more than mine.
Yes, absolutely. So
We all fall into this trap.
we all fall into this trap for
That's
sure.
how it works.
And even when you're doing all of that, you still have mum guilt about what more you could have done, right? I mean,
Massive mum guilt. Because I was pursuing my passion. And I was everywhere. And then I'd be so proud to say to people, especially Indian people, because they'd understand. I'd say, yeah, but I'll make sure there's a pot of food on the stove before I went to Cape Town for the day. You know, that thinking that must feed the family, must do this, must do that. Be-
I think that's where our Indian community falls short because they don't expect you. They expect women to be high flyers in 2025, but they don't expect you to drop the ball anywhere. And we're like, come on, we need to make it easier for each other. We have the baking pan, we can order our food.
yeah.
We
I'm
get
not
clever in
Durban.
2025.
And your baking pan is not here.
Yeah, we're gonna come there.
I just want to make one point, right? And the danger of us continuing to do this is, what example are we setting to our young girls? We're also telling them they must turn the tricks everywhere.
Yes, exactly. So I think that we are hopefully moving towards a society that's more fair, right? So
Yeah.
as much as women are going to be successful and equal in the workplace, they're going to be successful and equal in the home, at home as well, right? So everything needs to be shared equally.
Yeah.
So that's what we're moving forward for our girls, particularly.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I think that's where the partner they choose is also so important, you know, a partner
Yeah.
that supports you at home and in your career.
Yeah. And the partners being supportive now is, we must take that as basic, right? Because that's basic, guys, right? Having a partner that supports you. It's how you also see yourself and your role. Because
Half the
we-
problem
we-
is the
I overdid
partner
it.
doesn't even know you're struggling.
Yes.
It wasn't that the partner asked everything of you. You felt the need to do every single thing to be the perfect wife, the perfect mother, and perfect in your career.
And perfect daughter if you're an Indian girl as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
perfection
But
is the enemy
the
of
partner
good.
would have eaten toast for supper. You know, but I didn't want that now.
100% agree. So when you chose golf for your daughter, right? And no girls were playing golf. Yeah. The girls were doing ballet and the boys were playing soccer. Even the boys weren't playing golf in all
Honesty,
reality.
yeah,
In
Indian
the brown
boys, yeah.
community. Was it your choice? Was it her choice? How did that come along? Because a lot of people are looking at your daughter as an inspiration to get a scholarship internationally. Tell us a little bit about.
So the one thing I learned, the one thing my parents taught me, my parents allowed me to play to my strengths. So my dad was an optometrist, so you know they could very easily have also pushed me into the medical field, but I never wanted to do that. And my parents always said, you know, find a job that you really love because it means that you will never work a day in your life. And that always stuck in my head. So when my daughter was 4.5 years, I lived in Durban. We had a house in Glenwood. And I went to the Pick and Pay in Musgrave Center. And you know that bargain bin thing you get near the till when things are marked down? I'm a queen for that even now. I found a plastic set of golf clubs in that bin for 19.99 SA rands. And I thought to myself, my daughter never liked dolls. I was exactly the same. I was a total tomboy. I brought home that plastic set of golf clubs. She slept with those golf clubs at night. She played. She looked so professional playing. I have pictures of her playing with that plastic set of golf clubs. 6 months later, we moved to Johannesburg, and I said to my husband, just take her to that World of Golf place. Let's see if she's any good. And he called me from there saying, you're not going to believe this, but they tell me that she has a natural swing. And she was 5 years old. And in my head, all I could think of at the time was, oh my word, now, how much is that now going to cost? We've just moved to Joburg. I have to buy a house. and, and that's how it started. But she was so committed to it. I mean, the light will be going, the sun has set, and she would not want to come home. She would just want to play. So we supported that. Supported that.
And passion is where it's at, right? But we know every successful athlete actually has a parent that is doing a lot of driving and waiting and up and down. So, with your busy schedule, how did you manage that?
I'll tell you what we did. I was very cognizant of the fact that we had a younger son, and he was not interested in golf at all. We tried to give him the opportunity, but he didn't like it. And I was very concerned that this kid now is going to grow up on a golf course. And with carte blanche, I worked most weekends. So between my husband and I, we divided and ruled. I said, right, you take this girl and you guys do the golf stuff. I'll keep this boy with me, and he would come to me with me to work on weekends at carte blanche. So that's how we did it. I do the cooking and all of that, and it worked because I'll tell you, my son from the age of 16 months was surrounded by carte blanche. He'd come to studio with me, come to voiceovers with me, and it's even had an effect on the kind of degree he's studying. So he's doing an LLB, and he's done international debating. And when I listen to him, I can see and hear that carte blanche experience coming out.
Yes. Oh, that's phenomenal. I mean, like, well done for raising
Absolutely.
two incredible, successful kids. I think when all of the accolades come, as a mum,
Yeah.
that is the one that we want to hear the most.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. That's the one that really tugs at our heart. You know, if our kids are happy and successful. And I think also with the golf, you know, I must say, our kids try their hand at so many different activities. And I always say, all of them are so expensive. Get one that you find your child loves and follow through to the end. Because you get so many. Mia did a lot of dance, so we did ballet, hip hop, but we did it until the end. Whereas a lot of the kids, as the academics were getting harder, kind of dropped off dance, and Mia did it right until matric. But that takes such a lot of perseverance.
100%. And these kids are lucky because they can be exposed to so many things, but don't push it. Because now I've also noticed now a lot of parents coming to me and saying, oh, I really like my child to play golf. And my response is always, if they don't like it, don't do it. There are other things.
So, Devi, we have to ask you, did you watch The Mummy Club?
I did.
Are you a fan? And we absolutely value your opinion.
Yeah.
We
So-
want it straight.
Unbiased,
Your
yes.
unbiased opinion, we're ready to take.
I loved it. I loved seeing the personalities. And I did feel myself being drawn to the two of you, and I'll tell you why. It's because I do think that you are both genuinely nice people. Because in that kind of format, you can't hide emotions and you can't hide the way you feel. And you are being tested by these difficult circumstances and storylines. And when you're tested in that way, you get to see a person for who they really are. So I must say, I thought you were both honorable.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
do appreciate that.
We feel validated.
We feel validated. So when we came onto the show, the main reason we came on was to showcase the Indian woman.
Yeah.
The fact that it was a show that was encompassing, because still all these years, you
Later.
got the ladies like you, and they were still few and far between, but you never got a show that revolved around Indian culture, right?
And the representation of Indian, we felt, was always very colloquial. You know, it was the slapstick humor of how Indian people behave when we don't even behave like that. So when we felt a responsibility, by no means that we want to be on a reality show. Let's just we always say, like, you know, we were happy where we were. We did not want to be in the limelight, but we really did feel a responsibility to showcase successful Indian women, because we thought we could represent them well, as opposed to somebody being a misrepresentation of how hard we all worked. So taking over, and we were happy with how we came
Yes.
across.
Yes, we were.
Overall,
Yes.
Very real, like the temple. I remember that episode. bringing all of that in, I thought was pretty important. And keeping it real, I think that's the other big thing, is that you both did keep it real. It wasn't this airy fairy, flashy lifestyle. You could see you both went to work.
No,
And that's the whole thing as well. As much as life appears glamorous and amazing to the people on when you're on social media, there's also really hard times. Life
Yeah.
is hard, life is challenging,
I mean,
and through all of that, you learn to balance it all out, right? And the good outweighs the bad, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean there's no bad.
And getting older makes you a lot more resilient. Yes, but I hate the word resilient because for me, it feels like you must keep suffering. I don't like it. But I think we must accept that there'll always be the tough spot, but you get more and more confident with how you're able to find solutions to problems.
So as we age, right? We being in our 40s. So what I'm saying is, it's hard, right, to age publicly. But how have you managed that? You are looking
the
incredible.
best you've ever looked. Like we are watching you on social media, girl, and you are looking amazing.
What do you do? What is your beauty routine? Give us your give us your tips and tricks.
I'll give you the tips. I'll give you all the tips. The worst thing about being on television for so long is I always have these nightmares of people being able to pull out pictures of what I look like 25 years ago and what I look like now. And aging is aging. It is definitely going to happen. My mother taught me to look after your skin. She put me on a routine, I think when I was 13 years old. It was those Talita Yardley products I remember from years and years ago. So like, cleansing, toning, moisturizing, not sunblock. Sunblock I never heard of, I think, until my 20s. It wasn't a thing then. But it's that kind of thing is important. I think we all just want to grow old gracefully. Because here's the thing, there's a comparison. If I look at someone like Derek was 74 when he passed on, 74. Men are allowed to grow older on television naturally.
Of course, they get more
Totally, yeah.
distinguished.
They-
Yes,
yes.
totally.
And then if you also be so careful with aesthetic procedures because then you look fake. So there's such a fine balance of what we can do and what we can't do. It's a nightmare.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because botched procedures are a fact. I do those stories all the time, and then and then you also don't want to look like everything is pinched, poked, and pulled everywhere. But the makeup has gotten better. I can tell you that. I
Makeup is
mean,
looking incredible, really. It is.
But
Thank
that's
you.
what we say. Makeup can make such a big difference for us. Your makeup is, and you did it yourself. Your makeup is phenomenal.
I did it myself.
Master your makeup. Like go for that makeup class if you need to. Do it for your own skin, and then you always are so confident when you're looking great.
And let's look around us. Women are looking younger now than they did before. If you look at if you look at that same person 15, 20 years ago and look at them now, you think, wow, you look amazing. But do it. And I think instead of worrying about doing this and doing that and too much filler and all of that, go and look at the makeup and see what's available and take it in very small steps. Contouring is a simple thing like that.
Touring is goals, totally. We're so grateful. Like, when we turned 40, it was like, oh my God, it's 40. And 40 is the best place to be, right? Because honestly, for people pleasers that we were, it's really been evolutionary for us.
Yes.
But then we always have, like now, 50s is the new 40s, and we're looking at J-Lo and Shakira, and they're looking so good that we're not scared to turn 50.
We've gone through 3 decades. What is next for Devi?
So there's a couple of things that's in the pipeline that I'm working on. So I'm halfway through a book, and I've been halfway through my book for 2 years now. So I need to get back onto the wagon. I've just been so busy. Starting the Devi show has not been easy. It's taken 5 years. We're 5 years old now, and it's only now that I can say, okay, now we're in a space where we're a couple of episodes ahead, and we've got it sort of waxed.
So a book, that is amazing. I
Wow.
cannot wait for that to come
Yes.
out. Your life story needs to be told and published, so I'm glad that is
Absolutely.
happening.
And next, we want a podcast because we want to listen to you.
Yes, definitely.
I keep talking about a podcast, and this Devi show is full time. It's 7 days a week and all of that. So, but I'm trying. It'll come. It'll all come when it needs to come.
But you know what? Because you're such an inspiration, I feel like even on your social media, if you do a little snippet of woman motivation, I would definitely tune in.
Me too.
You know, we need to teach the young
That's an idea.
woman, especially the young brown woman, how to do it all. And you've done it before women did it. We want to listen to you. We want to learn. We try to do it on our platforms, but I think that if you have a small segment, I think you will do phenomenally well.
Agree.
Because if Devi says it, then it's gospel.
Well, Devi, thank you so much for joining us. You know, it was a pleasure speaking to you, and we can speak forever. Literally,
totally.
we will not stop if we didn't have the timeline to have to stop. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for being the inspiration that you have been to all us brown women. And thank you for being you. We love your voice, we love you, and we wish you everything of the best in the future.
Absolutely. You honestly did make our dream come true by being on our podcast. You must understand the excitement. We told mom and dad that guess who we're having on our podcast, and we said Devi Sankaree. My parents were beyond excited. So it is, you know, we are just two Indian girls from Durban, and you are the icon. So we are so ecstatic that you spent some time with us, and we are even more in awe of you after hearing you chat.
Thank thank you for the opportunity, and just remember, it doesn't matter where you come from. Um, we're all going places. It's a matter of just sitting down, strategizing, and making it real, because we live in a world now that is full of possibility.
And we're waiting to see the next chapter.
Literally the next chapter.
Exactly.
And from the Double Dose team, we're going to say, see you
Signing
next
out,
season.
and this is the end of season 1. We did it, sister. Our whole season.
Amazing.
And we will see you in season 2.